Subscribe to my YouTube channel, share it with your friends, and comment your thoughts. The morning sun had barely risen over the sleepy town of Silverwood when Lena stepped into the bustling cafe on Main Street. It was one of her own, a place she had built from the ground up, piece by piece, over years of hard work and sacrifice. But today, she was just another customer, blending into the crowd. Lena wore a simple cream-colored blouse and faded jeans, her hair pulled back in a loose ponytail. No flashy jewelry, no designer handbag, nothing to hint at the empire she secretly ruled. To the cafe staff, she was invisible. The cafe hummed with the soft clatter of coffee machines, the murmur of early patrons, and the faint scent of roasted beans mingling with freshly baked pastries. Lena moved quietly to the counter, placing an order without a word. "An oat milk latte, please," she said softly. The young barista behind the counter barely glanced at her, too busy chatting with a co-worker. "Coming right up," the barista said, without enthusiasm. Lena found a small table by the window and waited. She pulled out her phone and began scrolling through emails, checking reports from her other stores, hundreds of miles away. Her latte arrived, and as she reached for it, a careless bump from the man behind her caused the cup to tilt and spill warm coffee onto her blouse. A hush fell over the room as several people turned to see the small accident. One of the baristas muttered loud enough for many to hear, "Seriously? She didn't even leave a tip." Lena froze. The words hit her harder than the coffee stain. She felt the weight of dozens of eyes on her, some curious, some judgmental. She bent down quietly, grabbing the cup and placing it in the trash bin without a word. Her cheeks burned, not from embarrassment, but from a deeper hurt. Whispers floated around the room like smoke. "That's the third time this week," one voice said. "Who orders something fancy like an oat milk latte and then doesn't tip?" "Maybe. She's just cheap," another laughed. Lena's hands clenched into fists, but her face stayed calm. Inside, a storm raged. "They don't know who I am," she thought bitterly. No one had any idea that the woman they were mocking was the founder and owner of their entire coffee chain. Lena's journey hadn't been easy. She remembered when she first started, working multiple jobs, scraping by on barely enough to survive. Her dream of owning a cafe seemed impossible, especially as a woman in a world ruled by wealthy businessmen, but she refused to give up. She taught herself everything about coffee roasting and brewing, studied the market, and slowly built a loyal customer base. She poured every penny into that first tiny shop on Main Street. Now her company had grown to more than 80 locations across the country. Yet here she was, treated like an outsider in her own empire. The irony was almost cruel. Later that day, Lena sat in a corner of the cafe, trying to calm the rising anger inside her. The young barista, Chloe, glanced over and snickered to a co-worker. Lena caught the look and felt a cold chill run down her spine. She took out her phone and saw a message from Alec, her trusted head of operations. "She's the one, right? The one who came in this morning? Don't let this slip." Lena's fingers hovered over the screen. Alec had always supported her secret visits to test her stores anonymously. It was a way to see the real service, the real attitude, away from polished PR. But this time, it felt personal. At home that evening, Lena sat at her kitchen table, the stained shirt still clinging to her. She opened her laptop and began typing. A harsh email to the store's manager and staff. But then she stopped. Firing them wouldn't solve the problem. These workers were struggling just as much as the customers who walked into the cafe each day. She remembered her own struggles, the nights she went hungry, the endless rejections, the doubt gnawing at her soul. No, this was bigger than one bad tip or a coffee stain. It was about respect, about dignity, about teaching people to see beyond appearances. 2 days later, Lena's cafe location received an unusual notice. Corporate mystery inspection incoming. Prepare for a surprise visit. Panic spread quickly. The manager, Dale, barked orders for clean aprons, fake smiles, and perfect service. Chloe, the barista who laughed at Lena, looked nervous. "Do you think it was her?" she whispered. No one had answers, but Lena had already seen enough. The cameras, hidden around the store, had recorded everything, and this was only the beginning. The next morning, the cafe windows were plastered with a new sign, "Coming soon, documentary filming, real stories behind coffee." Chloe read it twice, confusion written on her face. Lena watched from across the street, a faint smile touching her lips. The world was about to see the truth. The morning sun had barely kissed the horizon when Silverwood's main street buzzed with unusual energy. Word about the documentary filming had spread like wildfire among the townsfolk and the cafe employees alike. Rumors raced through the air, some excited, others anxious. Inside Lena's cafe, the tension was palpable. Chloe stood nervously behind the counter, her fingers twitching as she wiped down the same spot on the counter for the third time. Her usual confident smirk was nowhere to be found. "Why would anyone want to film here?" she whispered to her co-worker Mark, who shrugged. "Probably some reality show," Mark said, trying to sound casual. "Maybe it's good for business." "But it's weird, right?" Chloe nodded, but deep inside a knot tightened. Across town, Lena sat quietly in her modest apartment, sipping black coffee. Her phone buzzed constantly with messages from Alec, the man who was more than just her head of operations. He was the only person who truly understood the weight she carried. "Alec, the cameras are set. Crew arrives tomorrow. Everyone's on edge." "Lena, good. They need to see the truth." For years, Lena had hidden behind a mask, letting her empire grow while she stayed in the shadows. But this documentary was her plan to reveal more than just good coffee. It was time to expose the hidden stories, the struggles, the kindness, the judgment, and the strength that brewed beneath the surface of every cup. The first day of filming, the documentary crew arrived early the next morning. Cameras were set up in every corner, behind the counters, in the roasting rooms, even in the break areas where staff let their guards down. Chloe felt eyes on her constantly. Every smile, every word, every mistake was recorded. Her nerves spilled over when the director approached her. "Chloe, can you tell us what it's like working here?" Chloe blinked. It's okay. Busy. You know, coffee, customers." The director smiled kindly. "Anything you want to share? Stories? Experiences?" Chloe hesitated, then shook her head quickly, but the cameras kept rolling. Meanwhile, Lena observed everything through the live feed Alex sent to her phone. She saw the baristas, the customers, the chaos behind the polished counters, and the moments no one noticed, like when a tired single mother, Jessica, handed over a crumpled bill and smiled apologetically, hoping no one noticed she couldn't afford the tip, or when Dale, the manager, scolded a young employee for a mistake that was clearly not her fault. Lena's heart ached. She had built this empire to create opportunities, not to breed judgment. The truth comes out on the second day of filming. Alec arranged a surprise meeting. Lena entered the cafe, disguised with a hat and sunglasses. She sat quietly at the corner table as the crew filmed customers and employees. The director, Sarah, approached her cautiously. "Are you the owner?" Sarah asked softly. Lena smiled faintly. "Yes, but I prefer to observe quietly." Sarah nodded, sensing there was more beneath the surface. Lena's phone buzzed again. A message from an unknown number popped up. "We know who you really are. Be careful." A chill ran down her spine. Back behind the counter, Chloe's facade was cracking. She whispered to Mark, "Did you hear? The owner comes here sometimes, but she never tells anyone who she is." Mark looked surprised. "Why would she hide that?" Chloe shook her head. "Because people judge her, just like we judge that woman who didn't tip." Guilt gnawed at Chloe's heart. A secret revealed later that afternoon. Lena was alone in the roasting room. watching the beans swirl through the machines. The smell reminded her of all the late nights and early mornings she had sacrificed. Suddenly, the door creaked open. Alex stepped inside, his face grim. "We have a problem," he said quietly. "What?" Lena asked. "There's a leak. Someone from your past is trying to expose you." Lena's eyes narrowed. "Who?" "We don't know yet, but it's serious. They have evidence that could destroy everything. The hidden enemy." That night, Lena sat at her kitchen table, surrounded by old photos and documents. Among them was a faded picture of a young Lena standing proudly outside her first tiny cafe. Her phone rang. It was her estranged brother, Raj. "Lena," he said, voice cold. "People are talking. They know your secret. You can't hide forever." Lena's heart pounded. Raj had always been jealous of her success, blaming her for past family hardships. "What do you want?" she asked sharply. "To warn you," Raj replied, "or to remind you that I still hold power over your past." Lena knew this was more than a warning. It was a threat. Suspense builds. The next morning, the cafe was unusually quiet. Staff whispered about the mysterious messages and rumors. Chloe, racked with guilt, approached Lena's favorite table hesitantly. I'm sorry," she said softly. "We judged you wrong." Lena looked up, surprised. "It's okay," she replied gently. "We all make mistakes, but it's never too late to change." Cliffhanger. Just as Lena was about to turn away, her phone buzzed again. A message appeared on the screen. "Your past is coming back. Be ready." She looked up sharply. Outside the window, a shadowy figure watched from across the street. And Lena knew this was only the beginning. The early morning fog curled like fingers around the streets of Silverwood as Lena sat alone in her small apartment, her mind racing. The message from the night before echoed in her head. "Your past is coming back. Be ready." It wasn't just a threat anymore. It was a warning that something dangerous was unfolding. She stared at the dim light filtering through the curtains, thinking about Raj, her estranged brother, whose voice had carried a coldness she hadn't heard in years. The wounds from their past were raw and deep. Raj had always been jealous of her success, jealous of the life she was building, while he struggled with bitterness and regret. Now, it seemed, Raj wanted more than just to hurt her feelings. He wanted to ruin her, the unseen enemy. The next day at the cafe, the atmosphere was tense. Word had spread quickly after the mysterious message, and the staff were on edge. Lena walked through the aisles quietly, trying to keep her calm, but her heart pounded like a drum. Chloe, who had started to see Lena in a new light, approached nervously. "Is everything going to be okay?" she asked. Lena gave a small, reassuring smile. "We'll get through this, together." But even as she said the words, a cold fear crept into her chest. She had no idea who this enemy was or how much damage they could cause. The first blow by midday, the first sign of trouble arrived. An anonymous package was delivered to the cafe. Inside was a thick folder of documents, contracts, photos, and old letters. Lena sat at her desk, flipping through the papers with growing dread. There were claims of financial mismanagement, accusations she knew were false, but someone had doctored the papers to make it look real. If these got out, her reputation would be destroyed. Her phone buzzed again with a message. "Your empire is built on lies, Lena. Time to pay." Trust shattered. The accusations spread fast. Within hours, whispers reached the media. Headlines questioned her integrity. Customers started canceling orders. Some employees looked at her with doubt. Lena felt the weight of years of hard work beginning to crumble. She called Alec, her trusted right hand. "We need to fight this," she said, voice steady but tired. Alec nodded. "I'm already digging into the source. We won't let them win." But the truth was, Lena couldn't help but wonder, could Raj really be behind this? And if so, what else did he have planned? A hidden ally in the chaos. An unexpected visitor arrived. Jessica, the single mother Lena had seen struggling before, stood nervously at the door. "I know it's not my place," Jessica said quietly, "but I want to help." Lena studied her carefully. "How?" Jessica pulled out her phone, showing video footage of staff treating customers unfairly. Not all staff, but enough to confirm some truth in the accusations. "I've been filming," Jessica admitted, "to protect myself and my son. But maybe it can help you too." Lena nodded slowly, realizing that sometimes the truth was complicated. The turning point that evening, Lena called a meeting with her core team. "We face a storm," she said, "but storms pass. We'll weather this one together." They planned a bold move to openly address the accusations, release the real data, and invite an independent audit. But as preparations were underway, Lena received a chilling phone call. A voice she hadn't heard in years. "Ready to lose everything, sister." Confrontation with Raj. The voice was Raj's. He wanted a meeting, face to face. Lena debated. Should she confront him or avoid him? Her decision was made when Alec brought new evidence. Raj was planning to leak even more damaging information at a press conference. The meeting Lena arrived at an abandoned warehouse on the edge of town, her heart heavy but resolute. Raj was there, waiting, his face shadowed. "You always thought you were better than me," he spat, "but without me, you're nothing." Lena held her ground. "I built this empire on hard work and honesty," she said calmly. "You want to destroy it? Then you'll destroy yourself too." Raj laughed bitterly. "We'll see." A shocking reveal during their tense exchange. Raj dropped a bombshell. "There's something you don't know," he said. "Our family isn't what you think." He pulled out an old, faded photo, one Lena had never seen before. It showed their parents, but something was off. A hidden letter was tucked behind the photo. Raj revealed a secret their parents had kept, a hidden debt that had nearly destroyed the family years ago, and a betrayal involving someone very close to Lena. Aftermath. Lena left the meeting shaken, but more determined than ever. Her past wasn't just shadows anymore. It was a maze she had to navigate carefully. She returned to the cafe, greeted by Chloe and the others, ready to fight for the empire she loved. Cliffhanger. As Lena prepared for the upcoming press conference, her phone buzzed once more. A text appeared. "You think you know the truth? Think again." Her breath caught because the biggest secret was still buried deep, and someone was watching, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The morning of the press conference arrived with heavy clouds hanging low over Silverwood. The tension in the air was thick enough to cut with a knife. Lena stood backstage in a quiet room at the city hall, her heart pounding fiercely but her expression calm. This was the moment she had feared and prepared for, the moment to clear her name, expose the lies, and finally face her past once and for all. Facing the crowd, the hall was packed with reporters, cameras flashing and whispers of anticipation. Lena stepped up to the microphone. The crowd hushed. She began, voice steady. "For years, I've built this company with honesty, hard work and love. But recently, false accusations and whispers from my past have threatened to destroy everything." She paused, looking directly into the camera lenses. "I'm here to tell you the truth, the real story behind my family, my company, and the challenges I've faced. The hidden past exposed." Lena pulled out the faded photo Raj had shown her, holding it up for all to see. "This is my family. Like many, we faced hardships. There was a secret debt that nearly tore us apart, a betrayal within our circle that almost ended everything before it began." She took a deep breath, but I chose to rise above it. She revealed the letters and documents, proof that Raj had manipulated and forged records to ruin her reputation. The crowd gasped. The twist. Just when Lena thought she had unveiled everything, the room went silent. A new figure stepped forward. It was Alec. He held a thick folder. I've uncovered the truth about Raj's actions, Alex said, and I have evidence of his illegal dealings, attempting to sabotage the company for personal gain. He handed the documents to the reporters. The mood shifted. The crowd's whispers turned to murmurs of disbelief. Raj's downfall. Raj tried to interrupt, shouting accusations and threats, but security swiftly escorted him out. Outside, reporters clamored for statements. Lena stood tall, a mix of relief and sadness in her eyes. "It's painful to confront family betrayal," she said softly, "but it's necessary for healing and moving forward." Rebuilding trust in the days that followed, the public slowly rallied behind Lena. Customers returned. Employees apologized for doubting her. Chloe, once a harsh judge, came forward with a heartfelt apology. "I was wrong," she said publicly. "Lena taught me to see people, not just appearances." A new beginning. Lena stood once more in her cafe, surrounded by familiar faces and warm smiles. She watched as Jessica, the single mother, served coffee with pride. Her empire was no longer just about coffee. It was about community, resilience, and truth. Final reflection. That evening, Lena sat by the window watching Silverwood glow under the streetlights. Her phone buzzed softly. A message from Alec. "You did it. The Empire stands. Stronger than ever." Lena smiled, knowing the journey was far from over, but finally she was free.